Kyle Klingman with Trackwrestling going down to Arkansas. He is the man of Arkansas wrestling. He has the Hatcher Agency, which you're going to see behind him. It's Greg Hatcher. How are you, Greg?
Doing great.
Tell us about the Hatcher Agency. I like that signage.
Well, the Hatcher Agency is 30 years old. I started it when I was 28 years old. With the slogan, the home of outrageous service. We have another slogan that our attitude is the difference. And I think the mental mindset kind of got us going. I started it with one employee 30 years ago. Today we have about 60 employees, and we do group employee benefits. That's how we started off, but now we really just do any type of insurance, whether it's health, property and casualty, individual, or life insurance. Anything you want, we've pretty much got.
Is it a rewarding business?
It is. I tell you what I like about it is I had one other job other than insurance, and I used to sell computers. And I would have to carry these computer boxes to people's homes and set them up in the 100-degree heat in Arkansas, and you just be dripped in sweat as you're doing that. And what I like about insurance is two things. Number one, I don't have to carry anything. I sell invisible air. And the second is that I get to really deal with people that are really smart and entrepreneurial, because the people that I sell to are business owners. So I'm selling their insurance coverage for their employees or for their company. And so at the end of the day, your job's really about who you interact with. And so I enjoy working with all these business owners. I learn a lot from them. No day is the same. It's always interesting.
But you wrestled at Alma College in Michigan. What was that experience like, and how do you use those skills?
Well, I was a late bloomer in wrestling, so I didn't start wrestling until 9th grade in high school. When we moved schools, I was a basketball player prior to that. And when we moved schools, it was too late to get on the basketball team. And so I think I finished 7th out of 8 in gym wrestling class in 9th grade. I didn't know any moves, but I decided to do the wrestling team. And then it took me a few weeks, and then I beat the guy that won that gym wrestling class deal to get the varsity spot. As a 9th grader, I was a 98-pounder, so I wasn't really built for basketball, I guess, at the time. But what wrestling has done is, as Dan Gable says, once you've wrestled, everything else is easy. I like the term wrestle through it. Our business, and I say wrestle through it all the time to my staff, is you just hang in there. If you'll hang in there a second longer than the next guy, you can win. So I think the wrestling mentality has really, really helped me in business more than any other sport, for sure. My son, who wrestled and is playing college football, they're getting ready to start camp, and it's 20, 30 days of 6 in the morning to 10 at night. He goes, I know I'll do good because this is easy compared to wrestling and everybody else. A lot of people get tired and break, but he's not going to break because of his wrestling background.
What'd you get out of a small college experience? That's unique a lot of times to be able to get that experience. What'd you get from Alma that might have been different?
It's funny that you would ask that on today's date. So today's August the 6th. My college coach, one of the two that I had, died on August 1st. He was 82 years old. He only had one leg. He had an amputated leg due to some clots in his leg, but that didn't stop him from doing a 50-minute walk every day and from doing all his exercises, playing golf. We just had an Alma College board meeting today, and I spoke on his behalf, and we're going to retire his number for all college sports at Alma College. But here's the difference, and I don't know, I would not want to say that this is not that way at Division I, because I watched the way Dan Gable follows up with his people. But when you pay a guy in today's dollars $50,000 to $85,000 to coach, you know they're there for the right reasons. So the Division III experience is really unique for me in that, as I said at the board meeting today, I have talked to that man every month since the day I graduated from college. And in the last 20 years, I've talked to him every week or had an email or something from him, because we were involved in he was in my fraternity, obviously way before I was, but I was the president of the Teak Alumni Association. He would always tell me what to do there, and he would tell me what to do on the college as far as the sports and, board involvement. He came to my kids' college football game last year. He came to my daughter's equestrian event when it was in Ocala, Florida. My other coach, so this guy was my baseball coach. My other college coach, Bruce Dickey, lives with me in Little Rock, Arkansas. He works at the Hatcher Agency. He came down there and he helped coach my kids. He coached my son Lane, and he was his head wrestling coach for 4 years in high school. He was his assistant baseball coach, and he also coached him in Little League football when they were growing up. So I find it interesting that I only had 2 college coaches. One lives with me in Little Rock and has kept in touch with me since the day I left. And the other one, did the same until his death at age 82. And so the Division III experience is personal. It's there for the right reasons. Sometimes we hear about coaches at the Division I level, they make so much money that it's a business that they just want you for your talents, and then they're kind of done with you afterwards. And I'm not saying that's the way it is, everywhere. But, I remember when my son went to play Division I, a lot of people would say, hey, most Division I athletes, 90% of them have a bad experience, 10% have a good. At my college, 90% have a great experience. Now, I think the coaches that really get it and the ones that do a really great job at the Division I level, they have the Division III mentality. They're there for the right reason. The money's just a bonus. They really care about the kids, because when you have a coach that cares about the kids know it. And they wrestle harder for you. They play harder for you. They're more connected. It's just like any other good team. So it may just be that I was very blessed and I just happened to have 2 great coaches at the Division III level. But I don't know many people that had a better sports experience than I did. The good Division I coaches that I know, and I don't really know any bad ones. I'm not throwing them under the bus. I'm just saying what I hear from athletes years later is that to me it's the bonding and the relationship that you build. And I was not a superstar baseball player for this guy by any means. That's what makes it even more amazing. His name was Coach Bill Klink. I was probably a better wrestler for the college than I was a baseball player. But the point is, I just couldn't have had a better experience. And that guy, till the day he died, all he cared about was Alma College. He reminds me a lot of Dan Gable, because to this day, Dan Gable's still all about Iowa wrestling and, contributing. So
What drove you to contribute for wrestling in Arkansas? Because you're the name I think of when I think of wrestling in Arkansas. Why did you get so deep into making sure that Arkansas had a great wrestling culture?
I think it's really important that we form people's attitudes when they're young. But all I remember is going to Alma College and loving it and loving my sports. And I remember before I graduated, I said, if I ever make any money, I'm going to give a whole bunch back to sports, because they've helped me so much and they've given me so much joy. So I didn't know if I was going to be successful or make money. I mean, making money doesn't make you successful, but I didn't know if I was going to have any money to do that. But when I did, I have tried to spend a whole lot of money on sports, not just in wrestling, but I don't know if you know, but in my backyard, we love about 100 acres. We have We have 2 soccer fields, a baseball field, a basketball facility, an indoor soccer facility, a 4-mat wrestling facility, and a tennis facility and an equestrian facility. And every day about 250 kids come to my backyard and they play for their coaches in all these different sports. And, you know, my kids are now all through the programs and they're still there and the coaches are still there. And people are like, are you going to keep these coaches? You know, your kids are through playing. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to keep these coaches. They help me raise my kids. You know, they get to work here as long as they want to work there. And we've now donated all those sports facilities to the Mighty Bluebirds, which is what it's called. It's called Mighty Bluebirds. We've now donated it to the nonprofit. So when I'm dead and gone, my kids can't sell it and give it away. It'll keep going. So not that I think they would, but it won't be long before I have some grandkids playing out there. So I've got 3 grandkids, but the oldest one's 2, so they're not quite, you know, in playing form yet, but I hope they play there too. So it was really just the good experiences that I had. And then it was kind of depressing to move to Arkansas and there wasn't a single wrestling match you could go watch. So it's been nice to have the wrestling grow, and we're having some D1 wrestlers. We've even got some UFC guys. Bryce Mitchell's doing pretty well in UFC. He's from Arkansas. So, you know, of course, Pat Smith just changes the level there. And now we have, you know, Neil Arisman with ULR. And, you know, there's a coach that I watch firsthand that I know is doing the right things, you know, with the kids. So that makes me feel good.
Tell us about the relationship with Pat Smith. As you mentioned, a legend in our sport, 4-time NCAA champion, the first to do so at the Division I level. How did that relationship form?
You know, I met his sister first when I was coaching soccer. One of the things people didn't know is I had 4 daughters, so I coached girls soccer. And before each soccer game, I'd have my girls wrestle on the sideline as part of their warm-up. So just imagine, you know, sweet little girls soccer, you're the other team, you look over and all of a sudden the girls on another team look like they're all in a fight and they're wrestling to the ground. And people thought I was a whack job, but our teams won. I mean, they won 98% of their games because we were tougher, because we wrestled in practice every day, we ran, and we weren't afraid to bump, you know, into you. And this woman afterwards said, bring that coach over here. I want to meet him. She said, why are you having those girls wrestle? And I said, well, we play a lot of boys teams and I don't want them to be afraid to bang into people. Is there anything that gets your blood going faster than a takedown? So you're trying to get them ready to play and all of a sudden you're wrestling with somebody for a takedown. You're ready to play on the first second of the game. So I said, right before the game, I do it. And she said, well, my brother is Leroy Smith, and he was working at an academy in Arkansas at the time. She said, I want you to meet him. So I went to meet him first, and then my daughter signed with Oklahoma State to play basketball, and then I met John. And Pat was the third one I met. So when we started high school wrestling and we had the academy, his sister Carol said, you really should talk to Pat. He would be great for this. He's got all these Division I skills, but he's patient and he's so good with people. So we actually flew to Oklahoma and got him and brought him back and told him, hey, it could be his, and we'd let him run it the way he wanted. And he was ready for that. And it just so happened that my son was about 9 at the time, maybe 8. I'd coached him for 2 or 3 years. And so he got the benefit of having Pat Smith from age 8 or 9 till 18, which, in my opinion, there's no question that he's partly the football player he is today because of Pat. Because Pat, I'm telling you, he's kind and he's nice, but he's kind of no nonsense. He almost never raises his voice, but when he does, you're like, oh my gosh. But he made those, I mean, I felt like we had we practiced an hour, hour and a half, but I felt like it was like a college level practice. It wasn't, there was nothing. Mean kids at that age will do whatever you want them to do, and then it doesn't even hurt them. So he was just so much mentally and physically better because of Pat. And by the time he got to high school football, it really wasn't even fair, from a mental perspective. Even at the college level today, it's not fair. You could take all the Division I football players out there and put them through one Pat Smith practice, and I'd tell you 98% of them couldn't finish.
And then Little Rock has a Division I wrestling program. The facility is the Greg L. Hatcher Wrestling Center. Why was it important to get invested in that? How rewarding has it been?
Well, I tried to get UALR, which was, they now call it Little Rock Wrestling, tried to get them to do wrestling, 2 or 3 times before. I ended up doing a transaction on one of my companies where I got some private equity money, and I used that money to donate, build some more sports facilities. By the time ULR called, I'd spent it all. I didn't have any left. I said, you're a little bit late, but they said, well, we'll add wrestling now. And I said, well, if you'll add wrestling, I'll build the facility. But I asked them, if we built it, could I do it, the way I wanted to do it, let me build the facility for them? And they said, yes. So I hired the contractor and we built it. And then Neil got there right at the end and we changed a few more things. But I just wanted it to be a standalone facility that we did not share with any other sport, because sometimes if wrestling shares, we always don't get the best deal of that share. So I wanted it to be all wrestling. I wanted it to be formats. And so it really turned out good. And I think we stretched our dollars, as well as you could.
What do you think the upside is for that program as far as where they can get? I know it's a starter program, but do you think that they can get into the national prominence?
I think that he can get them in the top 20 because of his mindset, because of his Oklahoma State background. John Smith did a lot of good things that Neil got to participate in. Pat was his coach there as well for some of that. So I guess Neil came a little bit after Pat, but he was still involved. I think Pat was involved in recruiting him. So you put all that good pedigree together, and then you put his people skills, his family attitude with the players, and just his own home life at home. I had Neil and his 5 kids at my house the other day, and I watch him. As you get a little older and wiser, I can look at a guy and say, that guy's genuine. He's legit. He's working hard on the recruiting. So I think he can get in the top 20 before he's gone. I watched Kevin Ward when we hired him at Ouachita Baptist University, Division II program. In 3 years, he was the National Coach of the Year in Division II. And, of course, he's got Army, doing really, really well, better than they've ever done. I don't think you have to be a national champ to be a great coach. Some of the best coaches are not. And I think that Neil is going to be one of those coaches like Kevin Ward is.
How do you make a determination on what you want to give to?
Most of the time it's sports is the answer. But, obviously I give some to the church, and then there's always those charities that you give to because you have a business relationship and things like that. But what I like about my giving to wrestling and to sports is that it's not a business relationship. It's just because I want to. And I believe that I used to tell everybody, I said, you can learn everything you ever needed to know in Sports Illustrated. Everybody that screwed up, there's the article in Sports Illustrated. Everybody that gave their life and put, tons of hard work, you can learn about it in Sports Illustrated. You can learn about politics in Sports Illustrated. You can learn about how to treat people in Sports Illustrated. So I just believe if you just said, Greg, just dumb it down. Tell me why you're successful in business. Is it your college degree? Is it your upbringing? It would just be the things that I learned battling through and wrestling through it in sports. In a nutshell, it's all encompassing: relationships with teammates, leadership, adversity, things being fair or unfair, overcoming the odds. All of those things, are in sports. So I tend to like to give back in areas that, help me, I guess. Being a little selfish, if it helped me, I think it'll help the next guy. But I give in non-sports areas as well.
You mentioned a few sports that you've played. Compare and contrast, what's the difference between maybe wrestling and baseball and the skills you learned from those sports?
So that's an interesting question. So I played college soccer, wrestling, and baseball. So in soccer, I didn't start playing soccer till I got to college, of all things. So I was a cross-country runner in high school, and I was like Forrest Gump. I could run forever. He could run like the wind. I could run forever. So I was able to play college soccer initially because I would get tired last on my team. I could go all day. And then I worked every day on the soccer skills. I dribbled. Before I played college soccer, I ran camps in the summer at Albion College. And I just took a soccer ball and I said, everywhere I go, that soccer ball's going with me. If I sat in a chair, I had to dribble it and put it in the chair. If I went anywhere I went, I dribbled the ball for 3 months. And that got my soccer skills, decent. And then I could run. And so one was I could make up for something just by being fit and in shape, which I think as a coach, I always said there's two things you can control: attitude and fitness. So I got in the soccer lineup by fitness. In wrestling, wrestling requires skill. You have to know the moves no matter how strong you are. It won't make up for not knowing the moves. So I had the fitness for wrestling like I had in the soccer, but I had to catch up there. And then there's some toughness to wrestling. But I would say my number one weapon was the ability to not quit, to keep coming. I was a pretty good Division III wrestler, but if I had to say what was my best match, it was the match that I trailed 15-0 and came back and won 17-15. Not because back then we didn't have the tech falls. It was, I threw up on that mat, trailing 15-0, got a second win and just kept coming. I came back because eventually he got so tired he couldn't move, and I got my points. So that would have been my deal there. Baseball is a totally different type of sport. You better have poise. All the fitness won't help you. All the determination won't help you. You have to be skilled and poised and execute. And so isn't that true in business? Sometimes I need to have poise, and sometimes I need to wrestle through it, and sometimes I just need the endurance to never, give up. So a little bit of all three sports: toughness, endurance, and poise. Try to use all three.
Sounds like a good mix you got going there. Maybe that's a good formula for building someone for the future.
Yeah. Never really thought about it that way. Yeah.
What's next for you? You want to keep contributing, but what's the next project for you to get back?
Good question. I guess probably more of the same, but I just turned 59, and people ask me, how long are you going to work, blah, blah, blah. And, I sold my company, so I had a chance to just throw in the towel. But I didn't really slow down much, but my mindset changed. You see things differently. Would you come to work if you didn't need the paycheck? That's the real question. If I started paying you nothing tomorrow, what would you do? And what I learned was that I'm working because I want my employees to do better. I'm working because I have 2 daughters and 2 son-in-laws in the company. I'm working because I want our company to grow. But once I have the mindset that I don't have to work for the money, I think I actually do a better job. It's like it takes some of the pressure off and it makes you more of a free swinger. So I'm enjoying not being stressed about it, which can help me be a better boss to my employees. Am I a perfect boss? No, but I'm a lot better than I was 10, 20 years ago, just like old men get, a little bit more wisdom. I've started some other companies. I'm expanding those. So now I look at it kind of like Warren Buffett said once. He said, I don't enjoy running companies. I enjoy owning them. My wife, I'm getting more opportunities where somebody will come to me and say, hey, would you buy this company? Would you do this or do that? It's kind of like Shark Tank. And I'm like, I'm taking a few more leaps because I only have 20, 25 years left anyway. What difference does it make? I have enough money to survive on. Why not do something great? It's kind of like you've already won one national title. Why not win 2 or 3 or 4 or 10, So I'm going for it now as much as ever. And I have a new weapon, and that weapon is I don't have any kids at home. I have more time on my hands. I don't have anybody to coach. I travel to see my last 2 play, but it's amazing what happens when you go empty nest. You actually have more time. So the real challenge in life is raising all your kids, paying the bills, when they're all teenagers and getting to all their games and being a good parent. We've done the hard part. We're on the last few laps now.
You got to tell me then, compare and contrast Greg Hatcher 15 years ago to Greg Hatcher now. What was the difference?
Probably more intense back then, less poise, more poise, and not quite as intense, but just better. You just smooth it out a little bit.
Give us the number one thing you've learned then over the course of your time, not only as a wrestler, but just through business. What drives you? What's your personal philosophy?
Well, right before I got on your call, I had an old baseball player that I played college baseball with. He'd texted me a few days ago after Coach Quink's death. I had not talked to him since we graduated from college. And he's now the CEO of this big construction company, and he's doing great. And we talked for an hour. The only reason we got off is it was time for this interview. We might have talked 2 or 3 hours. And it was like I hadn't missed a beat with him, in 30 years or whatever. No awkwardness at all on the call. And so we're going to get together and we're going to do something, relationships. I'm a relationship guy. So if you build relationships, they last and they work in business. They work with the players. I had a coach once tell me rules without relationship leads to rebellion. But if you have a relationship with your player, you can get upset with them. You can have a bad day. And as long as you can even yell at them, as long as they know that you're yelling at them for the right reason and that you love them. So I'd say the key to all success is, for me, would be relationship. And I've always chosen relationship over money. I've always chosen, you get in these situations where are you going to make that guy leave the situation feeling bad, or leave the situation where you won and you got, most men are generally fighting over women or money, right? So in a business deal, if somebody's upset about something, it's over something generally financial. I generally lose those battles and let them win, and I'll take the relationship and play for the next day. I'm in Florida right now. We're on vacation. We were going down on Wednesday, and you may know I'm a pilot, so I was flying down on Wednesday, and then taking my 2 older daughters, and my son called my wife the night before, and he's like, "Hey, football camp starts on Thursday. I'm not going to be able to see you guys for like 20, 30 days. Is Dad coming to eat dinner with me?" And it was kind of interesting because, here's this macho guy, who's tough, but he's still a kid. He's still getting ready to go into the battle. And I always go see him at least once a week just to eat dinner and talk with him about football, bounce things off. If one kid's got a dad in his corner at all times and another one doesn't, that's the difference. It's the difference between winning and losing. And so we flew down here, we unloaded everything, we got everything back, and then I flew back to Arkansas State to eat dinner with him last night. And then I flew back, got in at midnight. And that was a great day for me. That's the kind of day that I want, because he wanted to see me. He wanted to talk to me about the season and all the challenges that he would have coming into that camp. And that's why I said, one of the things he said, he goes, "Dad, I know it's going to be tough." He goes, "But I know I'm not breaking. After wrestling, I'm not breaking." But that's what I mean by relationships. So if I did good business, but my son didn't need to see me the day before camp, then I guess I didn't do so good. But he wanted to talk to the old man.
Greg, we'll end with this. I think Pat Smith is JT Real Muto's uncle. So you got a guy that wrestled and plays in the major leagues. What do you think about that guy?
Man, he's cool. I just saw a picture of him in the paper today, and he was standing on the mound. I think the coach was coming out talking to the pitcher, and I just looked. I'm like, man, he's a good-looking stud. We went to a game with Pat Smith to see him play, and of course he was super to. It's before the game. He's got Pat's kids out in the outfield, and he's throwing them pop flies. And before you know it, Pat's got 2 sons. Gus and Boone, and Boone's the younger one, and Boone's a wild card. So, he's throwing Gus pop flies and Boone pop flies. They're taking batting practices to warm up the game, and we get kind of focused, and he's throwing more pop flies to Gus. The next thing we know, Boone's out in dead center field with the major leaguers, okay? And he's shagging pop flies from these major league hitters that are heading at 400 feet. And you hear the coach yell at JT, goes, "Get that kid out of the outfield before he gets killed," because they're hitting bombs out there, But, the whole Smith family is pretty down to earth. And that, he's tough. He's one of the best catchers. He may be the best catcher in the major leagues. He may be a Hall of Famer. He starts off as a state champion wrestler. He's a shortstop. They move him to catcher. As soon as they got him as soon as they drafted him, they saw his arm strength. They moved him back to catcher, checked him out. And of course, he's the best defensive catcher in baseball. But, when you think about it, it's really no surprise. Where do you put the tough guy in baseball? You put him at catcher.